You know, it is so good right now to see the enthusiasm behind Vice President Kamala Harris. It feels so good to finally be on the offense for a change. For the longest time, it felt like we were always having to defend ourselves and always having to start off our videos by saying, I know things are bad right now, but you guys just keep pressing forward. Now we can say, hey, we've got some momentum and let's hang on to it. Let's not lose sight of it. Let's not lose sight of this excitement that we have right now around Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's make sure we ride this all the way to Election Day and give her the landslide she needs to ensure that we save democracy. Now, I've not made any bones about it here on the channel. I'm solidly behind Governor Andy Beshear out of Kentucky. He's my favorite to be the VP pick. I make no apologies for that. And I've talked at length in my videos about why I think he should be the guy for that job. But the good thing is, we have so many good voices on our side that I'm not going to be disappointed with whoever Vice President Kamala Harris picks as her running mate. And I have to say that Governor Josh Shapiro out of Pennsylvania is damn good at what he does. And this next couple of clips I'm going to show you is just exhibit A and B as to just how great he is. He knows how to answer a question. He knows how to talk to an audience. And it feels so good to hear people on our side talking with us instead of down to us, encouraging us and lifting us up instead of trying to just spread fear and propaganda. So let's take a look at this clip of Josh Shapiro being asked about Donald Trump's recent attacks on Kamala Harris and just listen to what a masterful response he gives. This is really good, folks.
What do you make of President Trump's attacks on her identity? He said, in his words, she only recently, quote, became black.
Yeah, I think it's offensive. And it is more of the same from Donald Trump. He attacks other people based on what they look like or who they pray to, who they love, the way they were raised. He tries to divide Americans because, quite frankly, he struggles with uplifting all Americans. I think it shows a profound weakness in a leader when they can't sell themselves, but instead they got to attack other people. And attacking the identity of the vice president is shameful. And attacking the identity of the vice president doesn't at all reflect negatively on Vice President Harris, but shows a real insecurity about Donald Trump. Listen, this guy is nervous as hell to face Kamala Harris. He's already trying to back out of the debate. Did you notice that? Part of that is because he knows she's going to whoop him in the debate. She is a skilled prosecutor, a great communicator. But there's another reason why he doesn't really want to debate her and doesn't really want to have a conversation about the issues. And that is because he can't defend his record. He has a record of failure when he was president. I want you to think about this. When he was president, we had fewer jobs in Pennsylvania. We had less freedom and a whole lot more chaos when Donald Trump was in charge. And listen, Kamala Harris, what she proposes to do for this nation is uplifting. It is empowering. And it's going to help make sure we move all Pennsylvanians forward, from our HBCUs to our skyscraped center cities to our farmlands. And I must tell you that I've been traveling all around this Commonwealth, as you know, doing my job as governor and also making sure that I tell people about the Kamala Harris that I know and that I've known for the last 20 years. Folks are excited wherever I go. Rural communities, suburban, urban communities, they're fired up, they're ready to go. And I think Donald Trump's attacks speak volumes about the kind of coward that he is, about his own failings, and say nothing about the great qualifications of the vice president.
I'm so glad to see someone finally calling Donald Trump insecure and finally pointing out just how weak that he is. Because for the longest time, we've had to sit and watch Donald Trump come out and try to act like he's this tough guy. And people tries to portray him that way when in the reality is he is one of the weakest, most fragile dudes out there. The minute he gets confronted with a tough question, he pouts. He literally stubs up and pouts like a kid that refuses to get in the car or refuses to leave the line at the grocery store because they want a piece of candy. He just stands there and pouts and whines and cries and slings his insults. And when someone has to resort to that level of insults, when someone has to resort to name calling all the time, it's because they don't have an argument. Now, don't get me wrong. I've really enjoyed a lot of the funny names we've came up with for people on the right. Shady Vance is one of my absolute favorites. Moscow Marge definitely fits. But if you'll notice, I don't lean into that stuff too hard because I feel like a lot of times you lose people when you do, because they just feel like that if you're, slinging the same shit back at them, that, what's the difference? I think that sometimes contributes to the idea that, well, both sides are the same to those that aren't paying attention. But I loved how Shapiro just masterfully responded to that and pointed out the insecurities and the weaknesses in Donald Trump. And I love his response to this next question about J.D. Vance, because J.D. Vance thought it would be insulting to compare him to Barack Obama. And again, his response is great. Take a look.
J.D. Vance just said this about you, and these are his words, quote, he compared you to a really bad impression of Barack Obama. What is your response to that?
Is that what he said? It's great. I love how we get the real-time quotes here. I mean, look, I don't know. Barack Obama was probably our most gifted orator of my time, so it's kind of a weird insult, I guess. But look, I'll say this about J.D. Vance. It is real hard being honest with the American people when you're not being honest with yourself. J.D. Vance is a total phony baloney. He is the most inorganic candidate I think I have ever seen on the national stage. He doesn't know what he believes, and that is why it is impossible for him to articulate a coherent message to the American people, because he doesn't believe it. This guy is not exactly off to a good start, and it is clear that Donald Trump really has buyer's remorse with his pick. So if he wants to sling insults in my direction, which I'm not even sure is an insult, let him do it. That's fine. Bring it on. I'll be ready for whatever the hell J.D. Vance throws my direction. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, folks, Shapiro is really good at this. I love that response. J.D. Vance doesn't know what he believes. And I am right now rereading the book Hillbilly Elegy, and I'm going to be doing members-only content where I read the book with the members. So if you haven't checked out our memberships, be sure to do so. We got a lot of cool stuff going on over there. And thank you guys so much for hitting that subscribe button and sharing my videos. But J.D. Vance doesn't know what he believes. That's why he's went back and forth so many times. He is clearly someone who doesn't really know who he is. He doesn't know where he come from, and he's very confused. So it's actually, he's really the perfect running mate for Trump when you think about it, because one could say the same exact thing about Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't necessarily know what he believes. He just knows how to grift people. And he will change with whatever, he'll say whatever he has to say to continue his grift. And we have saw him grift so many people. And instead of finding someone to be his running mate that would bring independence in or appeal to people outside of MAGA, he just brought in a complete and total clown who's doubling down and only making things worse for him in his campaign. And I think it's funny to watch. And I think it's extremely funny to watch on our side of the aisle. We have people like Josh Shapiro standing up and talking and communicating like a real person should. We have people like Gretchen Whitmer. We have people like Andy Beshear. We have people like Mark Kelly. We have people like Pete Buttigieg. If Kamala picks any of those people, I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to complain. And any of those people is going to obliterate J.D. Vance in a debate. I just personally think it would be funnier if it was Andy, because we could have a loser leaves Appalachia match. I can picture the old wrestling poster now. Loser leaves Appalachia for good. Trust me, J.D. Vance would not make it 2 minutes into that debate with Andy Beshear that he wouldn't be running scared, but he definitely would be doing the same thing if it was Josh Shapiro. Shapiro is great at what he does, and it's so good to see us have our people come forward and really start talking. We've been saying so many times, people, speak up, start talking, let them have it, give it back to them. We can't back down. And I always make the comparison, when you're fighting the bully, you can't run from him. I always make this analogy. But the reason why Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson is, well, first of all, his mother passed away, and he was already so hurt that Mike Tyson really couldn't hurt him. Second, he wasn't afraid to stand there and get hit. He didn't try to run away from Mike Tyson. A lot of people thought that if you ran from Tyson and just tried to wear him down, that would eventually beat him. That's not how you fight a bully. Because if you give Mike Tyson room to lunge, he's going to knock your brains out. So what Buster Douglas realized is, if I stand right in front of him and I'm not afraid to get hit, and I'm willing to take it on the chin, and I'm willing to swing back, when you swing back, and if you get knocked down and get up off the floor, go back and watch that fight. When Buster Douglas got up off the floor and looked at Mike Tyson, the fight was over right then. Because for the first time in Tyson's life, someone had got up and looked at him like, is that all you got? And that's what you have to do when you're fighting a bully. That's what you have to do when you're standing up against people like Trump and J.D. Vance. And I'm so glad we have people like Josh Shapiro out there taking the good fight to them.